One. Okay, so tonight we are looking at the concept of kaleidoscoping, which is reflecting and expanding your point of view to discover a multitude of perspectives. So, Nabil, hey, hey,
Hey, hey, how's it going?
it's going. I
Hi,
am just
everybody.
so excited to talk to you about your book, your life, who you are, all that stuff. You're a fascinating human.
Thanks.
Um,
I'm excited to be here.
I'm going to read your bio real quick. Nabil Ayers has written about race and music for the New York Times, NPR, Pitchfork, Rolling Stone, and GQ. His memoir, My Life in the Sunshine, was published on June 7th, 2022, Viking Penguin. Ayers is the president of Beggars Group US, where he has run campaigns for The National, Big Thief, Grimes, Future Islands, and St. Vincent, as well as reissue campaigns, including Pixies' album Doolittle, which was certified platinum in 2019. At age 25, Ayers and his business partner opened Seattle's Sonic Boom record store, which I know you heard of, which they sold to a longtime customer in 2016. As a drummer, Ayers has performed in several bands, including the Long Winters and Tommy Stinson. On his own record label, the control group Valley of Surge, Ayers has released music by Kate LeBon, Likey Lee, The Killers, PJ Harvey, Patricia Brennan, and his uncle, the jazz musician Alan Brofman. So I wanted to ask you, given the incredible trajectory of your life that on some levels is just beginning. You've gone through so much. You shared with me earlier about how you just started writing without any, at least conscious goal. You wrote this beautiful memoir. It was so vulnerable and touching and honest and moving. And I'm wondering, what did you discover about yourself in the process?
Thank you. That is an interesting question. I've thought about it a lot. I think what I learned more than anything. I mean, I was never a writer. I work in the music business. It's kind of I played in bands, was always into that, and just started writing for fun 6 or 7 years ago. And to make a very long story very short, we kind of turned into this book. Um, And I just got so into writing, and I was really kind of chronicling my life. I was in my late 40s, and suddenly it was all just coming out really naturally. No one was asking me to do it. No one even knew I was doing it. It was really like my own secret project. And a lot that happens in the book and in my life happened as a result of me sort of writing and discovering people related that I'm related to or ancestors. It's kind of the cyclical thing that I realized was happening because I was digging into it. And every door I opened, two other doors were behind that door. And I would write about that. And I would find somebody and I would get a hold of them and they would tell me about somebody else. And so I think, I'm 51 now. So I was about 49 when I finished this book. And I thought, okay, this book is almost done. And when it's done, it's going to feel complete. And what I learned is the opposite, that there's
Mm.
so much more to learn. There's so many more people to talk to. It just keeps evolving. And so, yeah, I think really what I learned is that it's this never-ending process in a really exciting way, and that the process I'm referring to both life and writing, I think.
I love that. It reminds me of, when you have a ton of stuff to do and you're all stressed out and you bullshit yourself like, oh, as soon as I finish this, there's no shwoo.
Right. Exactly.
So I think we should remove it from the dictionary or at least our
Mhm.
vocabulary.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So when you started writing, you said you just started writing. Retrospectively, do you think that there was something inside you, whether you thought you were going to write a book or something else, that was calling for your voice to be expressed in this format?
I think so. I mean, on my mother's side, my mother and my grandmother both write and have written a lot. Neither one ever published anything, but I've read tons of their stuff. I think it runs in my blood on that side of the family. And really what my book is about, I happen to have a copy right here. It looks like this.
Oh, show
But
it longer. Okay.
but it's really about my relationship with my father, who I've never known. The very short story is that when my mother was 21, she met him. He's a famous jazz musician named Roy Ayers, and she said, I want to have a baby with you. You don't need to be part of our lives. And I've always known that story. So it's always been in the back of my head as something that I should get further into at some point in my life. And that's really, I think, what what started the writing process. I was writing a lot, writing about fun things, writing about the music business and bands. And it was my wife, Allie Jane, who you know, of course, who said to me early on in our dating, she said, look, that's all like really fun stuff you're writing about. And I guess you should keep doing that. But what you should really write about is your father and your race, because that's what interests you. And she was right. So she was the one who really pushed me into something that was much more difficult and much more vulnerable, but that also turned into the thing that I think I was meant to write about.
And how did you deal with that vulnerability?
I really think I was lucky. I didn't realize how much the fact that nobody knew I was doing it. That was really, I think, my great the thing that worked for me. I mean, some people work great with goals or with accountability or somebody that they have to show something every week, and that's great too. But for me, what worked was I can write about this person that I don't know who's really close to me in such a way that no one knows that I'm doing it. I can be so free. I can be so much more honest than I would be if I had to show this to somebody at the end of the week or the end of the month. And so I really just went in saying, I'm going to try to write, X amount every week. No one ever needs to see this. No one ever needs to know I'm doing it. And that's why I think it turned out the way it did. The book is much more vulnerable than I am as a person and much more revealing. And I think it's
Sure.
that. Yeah.
But I love that also because what worked for you is the way that we approach these writing experiences.
Mhm.
One-on-one love and feedback and support is essential and amazing. But when you say something vulnerable to a group of people and they nod, at least for the moment, you're no longer crazy,
Right. The
Crazy follows
affirmation.
you around, but like over time, if you just have a repeated positive experience with sharing your vulnerability, that vulnerability diminishes. But these are the things that we're not taught in school.
Right.
So, how did you go? I mean, I imagine you were a kid when you started playing, but what what got you to start playing?
Started playing music.
Yeah.
I mean, so my father is this famous jazz musician, but I've never known him, so it wasn't him. And my uncle, my mother's younger brother, who I'm still very close with, is also a musician. Um, I think, a lot of the conversation I've had since the book has come out is the sort of nature versus nurture thing. And my uncle is the one who, and my mother, but my uncle bought me a drum set when I was 2 years old because I was already
Wow.
in drums and music. And so he's the one who bought me albums and took me to concerts and played music with me. There's recordings of me as a 3-year-old playing drums with my uncle when he's 23 or whatever. So it was always there. I don't remember discovering music because it was always there. It's always been there. And I've just always loved it. So I figured out a way to play music for a long time and then, sort of transition to the business side as I've gotten older. But it's just always been there.
So when it comes to music, there was never any self-consciousness to overcome.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think there still is. I mean, the funny thing is that we're in, this, but my wife and I we live in Brooklyn, but we have a condo in Palm Springs that we bought during the pandemic. And I play drums, which is obviously a loud instrument. I don't have a drum set in New York and I miss it very much. I had drums at a friend's house in LA and we just turned the closet over here, the walk-in closet, into a drum room, which I love. But I forgot until this week when I started playing again. There is this self-conscious thing, even the like, can the neighbors hear this? Do they
Mm,
think I'm good? All of those things that
yeah.
everyone here feels in some form of their life. Still, I've played drums for my entire life, but I still wonder things like that because that's just how we are as humans, I think.
And I think it's so important to hear that from people who you think have schwooed
Hmm.
those kinds of feelings. We
Yeah.
all feel that forever, and it's comforting to know. And I don't know how you feel about it, but do you see an upside of anxiety about your work or self-consciousness?
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean, sometimes it really bothers me. I feel it in writing all the time. I mean, there are parts of the book and things I've written before and after the book where I just think like, this is terrible. Who would ever want to read this? Where did this come from? Why am I wasting my time? All of those thoughts. I don't think they ever go away. And I at least try to sort of find the positives. It's good to have a filter and to know that some of your work is maybe better than other of your work, and to at least, you have to know bad to know good, I think. So even if it's just criticizing yourself, as long as you can get to a point where you like something and reward yourself somehow, I think that's important.
And final question, you can ask a friend. Um, What outside support was solid for you?
With writing, I have two friends who are in a similar position, who weren't, professional writers to say. They're both people who had other jobs and were just enjoying writing. And they were both people that I felt comfortable, and so did they. We almost had this, agreement where like, can I send you 1,000 words? Can you check that out again? And it would be very, like, I'm not looking for, I just want to vibe read. That's what we would call it. Like, don't look at typos. Don't look at anything. Like, tell me what you think about this. How does it make you feel? What's it missing? All those kind of things. And so I think it was really important to have that kind of rapport with someone who I trust, but who also wasn't working too hard at it and was very
Yeah,
positive and could just say, this whole second section is really good. This should be first. Like things that you don't necessarily know yourself. And yeah, that's an important thing to have.
well, that's fantastic. And it's a good place to take a pause. So I'm going to share my screen.